So the FAA mandates that we do an annual live burn for all ARFF certified members. We currently have 130 members that are in the ARFF program. And every year we come out, whether it be here or at a fixed site location, and all of our members have to go through a burn process to where we take care of simulated exterior spill fires, as well as making an interior fire attack and search and rescue for possible victims, wheel and engine and brake fire on the exterior of the aircraft. So last year we visited Salt Lake, which is a fixed site location, and 2 out of every 3 years the FAA has allowed us to bring in a mobile prop, which is what we have here today at the Phoenix Training Academy. So we're able to cycle our members down through the program during their work shift to come down for an 8-hour day. We do a classroom portion in the morning, cover and review some tactics, some fireground tactics based on the ARFF response that we have out at Sky Harbor, and then we transition into the afternoon where we do a scenario-based training, and we allow our members to problem solve and solve a scenario-based incident that we could possibly face at Sky Harbor. And it's just to get out and use our trucks and use the tools that you typically wouldn't use on the structural side, but only at the airport. And with the strict guidelines at the airport with the EPA and with foam, we're only allowed to use water. And because they are different trucks and much larger trucks, it's hard to train at the airport without the wide open spaces. So it just familiarizes our members with all of the tools that they are required to use at the airport.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Good.
We have probably 8 to 10 incidents a month, or alerts, which is where an aircraft inbound would have some sort of hydraulic issue, light issue, possible smoke issue. But so far so good. It's been alert 2s where the planes land without incident. We respond 8 to 10 times a month with the large crash trucks, but we haven't had an issue in approximately about 1.5 years. What was our last large scale incident where we had a hydraulic issue like we typically respond to, that landed, lost control of their nose gear, ingested a marker sign, and had fire shoot out the right engine about 300-400 feet. And that was our last large scale incident. No passenger injuries, so it was a success. We average about 8,500 calls a year for service there for EMS and alerts. A lot busier than most folks think. Unfortunately, for the structural guys on the outside, they're not really aware of what takes place inside the airport, just because it's one of those unknown factors. Unless you are badged and ARFF certified, there is no possible way that you can work there. The FAA makes a mandatory visit annually that's coming up in April, and they will go through line by line and inspect every single member's records to make sure that all 11 criteria as well as the live burn are performed within a 12-month period. In the event that there was a member that was out of compliance, then the airport and the Phoenix Fire Department would be at risk of financial sanctions. And they have sanctioned people and departments across the United States in the upwards of millions of dollars. So Foam 1 ended up at 7 o'clock. So it's a seniority-based program. Last year we had 320 applicants for 20 positions, and I put a class through last February. We just had a class that went through in January of 2017. We had 225 applications for 14 positions. So we had a class of 18 folks that went through, 4 of which had secured spots at Station 19, and 220 individuals applied for 14 rover positions. There's 130 people in the program. There's 17 members that are currently assigned to Station 19 on A, B, and C shift. And then the remainder of the 130 are rovers, firefighters, BLS firefighters, ALS firefighters, BLS engineers, ALS engineers, BLS captains, ALS captains. And what those rovers do is backfill those positions, because they're only allowed to have 130 members. When we have a member off at Station 19, they have to be backfilled with an ARFF certified personnel.
Duane Vanzant, engineer here at Driver Training. Today I'm going to talk to you about the collision review process. So when one of us get in an accident, a report is generated first by you, that gets sent to your supervisor, then to their supervisor, and then finally to safety. After it gets to safety, after about 4 to 6 weeks of accidents, we all get together, collision review committee, and we all discuss the accident, read the report, and decide if it was preventable or non-preventable. If it was preventable, it's looked at and decided what action would be taken. Most of the time that is simply more training. You would come here to driver training and we would try to recreate that accident. If it's non-preventable or unavoidable, it wasn't our fault at all, then it simply just goes away and you usually won't hear another thing about it. So one of the trends right now that we've noticed in the recent collision review committee is accidents involving right-hand turns while driving code 3. Generally what that is that apparatus is making a right-hand turn, typically from a left lane or not the right lane, and as they start to make the turn, they're assuming that traffic is not going to try to pass them on the right, and they ended up hitting the captain's side of the apparatus. So it's your responsibility as an emergency responder to clear that right lane before you make that turn. Remember, we, going code 3, simply request the right of way from the public. Whether or not, it's not an absolute that we have it. So as professionals, you have to make sure that those lanes are clear before you proceed. One of the other big accidents that we have a lot of are clearance accidents. That means anything that's in tight quarters, apartment complexes, parking lots, on fire scenes themselves, trying to move a piece of apparatus in a tight area. Almost 1/3 of the 100 accidents that we had that were preventable were clearance accidents. So remember to slow down, take your time, and make sure you have clearance, and use spotters if necessary, whether going forward or in reverse. One of the other big ones is mirror strikes, mirror to mirror. So our mirror hits a civilian car's mirror or a truck's mirror. Remember, those are avoidable. Even though it may be tight, that's one of the things we hear a lot. I knew it was going to be close in a lot of these accidents, but yet we still struck something. So just remember to make sure that you have the clearance to get by and not just assume that you do. One of the other big ones and expensive ones are bay door strikes. Some of those were thought to be mechanical. Most of them are not. And some of the things that we look at is maybe somebody inadvertently pushed a button that they shouldn't have pushed, or simply in too big of a hurry and not waiting for the door to open, or in one instance pulling way too fast into the bay and going right through the door. We don't have too many code 3 accidents. We only had 6 in the last 12 months. That's not too bad, and that's pretty good actually, because usually those accidents are more serious than, say, the clearance accidents, which are usually at low speed. So good job with that. Just remember that we are definitely the ones that are going to be at fault if you get in an accident going code 3 about 90+% of the time. One of the bright spots in the collision review that we just had was our backing accidents. We've only had 3 backing accidents in the last 12 months. They were all minor and they all had spotters. Usually it was just a miscommunication with the spotter or the driver looking at the wrong spotter or something like that. So excellent job using spotters and backing slowly and being professional.